Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Interviewing Wednesdays. We're glad you're with us. It is October 19th, 2022. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For those people on Zoom, you're welcome to enter any questions you have into the chat window. Also, it's a great place to network with everybody else who's on the call today. So if you want to put your contact information in the chat window, please do so, and then you can connect with other people via LinkedIn. For those watching on Facebook, we are monitoring that feed. You can enter your questions into the comment field. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org. In 2012, just about 10 years ago this week, I started a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. I'll tell you about our upcoming program that we have scheduled for this Friday at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. Just remember, your resume and your LinkedIn profile isn't going to get you your next job. It will get you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills is what's going to help you get that next job. So you'll hear more about the PIT crew here in just a moment. All right, well, let's hear from Walt Glass about the interview success workshop. Good afternoon, Walt.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. So what is the interview success workshop? Well, it's a very informal learning practice interview session. There's no reason we can't enjoy learning. We're just trying to get better. So what does the workshop really focus on? It focuses on three things, plus how to differentiate yourself from other candidates. The three things are the pillars of what companies are buying. They buy who we are, our soft skills, our characteristics, what we do, our experience, our hard skills, and how we can help them, the value that we bring. I see a lot of interviews where the value that we bring is not part of the conversation, not part of the interview. We certainly need to add that part. You need to put it in your resumes as well. You got to have some specifics on the value you bring there. And we want to tell those stories in the interview too. So the workshop is very basic and fundamental on those three items, on selling who we are, what we do, and how we are. How do we do that in an interview? How can we gain that confidence? How can we gain those skills so that we walk into the interview, we are excited about meeting the person. We are genuinely interested in the job. We really like the company. We've got some questions prepared so we can find out what's important to us. All that little preparation goes a long way into saying, okay, I look forward to the interview rather than praying for God to help me answer those questions. We got to move into that confidence realm. So if you want to sign up, you have to register to attend. It is free. That QR code that you see on the screen will start an email, and you have to edit a couple of pieces inside of that email to register. I'll be glad to send you dates. I typically reserve Tuesdays from 9 to 11 Central for workshops. Last week, I actually did 2 different days of workshops. So I can schedule that as needed, depending on demand and your availability. So send me that email. Let's get registered. Let's have some fun learning how to improve ourselves. And we don't have to do it with anxiety, stress. We don't see our lives flashing in front of ours. There will be no security team there to take you out if you kind of screw up a question that you didn't think you answered very well. So we're just looking forward to improve. So we call it learning without squirming.
Thank you very much, Walt. All right, let's hear from Ron about the practice interview team. Good afternoon, Ron.
Good afternoon. It's good to see everybody today. So the Dallas Pit Crew really has a mission to make you more comfortable during the interviews. That is our goal. There are a couple of things that are associated with that. Number one, There's no cost to you. It's completely free. Number one, what we require of you is for you to send us your resume as well as a job description that you want us to interview for. And then we will take that and assemble a group of panelists, typically 2 to 3, that will then give you a mock interview and give you a review of how you've done after that. Okay. There are some things we like to say, like practice early and practice often. Don't wait the day before. Don't wait the day, a couple days. We're going to need, at least 3 or 4 days probably to get our panel together and get ready for you in information like that. So it is free. We do require at least you give us those 2 pieces of information. And our goal is to help you get confidence during that interview. And you can do this multiple times. Okay. I myself was out of work for a long period of time. I started with this group in 2018, and I actually did it 5 times over a lengthy period to make sure that I kept my skills up. Okay. We're going to see a video today. I am going to post in the chat window a link to a document that gives you links to all of the videos that are on Jeff's site, as well as a brief description of them. So you will see that in the chat window on or about right now. So that is a document that can help you get to these videos and tell you what to look for. All right. In addition to the panel interview, we also have sometimes one-to-one coaching. If that's what you need, we may be able to help you with that. Or we have one-way video capabilities. I'm going to throw it back to Jeff here to talk about the one-way video, or Walt, either one of you can explain those.
Ron, thank you. Yes, if you like to schedule a one-way interview, it's very different. It's you talking to the camera on your computer. The computer will go and ask you a question or questions, and then you have to answer them within a certain period of time. There's nobody at the other end. So if you'd like to do a sample trial practice one-way interview, just send either Walt Glass or myself an email. We'll get you signed up. Walt's is a little bit different than mine. We've each come up with different questions to ask for people. Nobody else will see this. Once we send you the link and you take the test, we will send you a link so you can go back and watch the video, and then you can evaluate yourself. Nobody else will see it, like we said. So if you'd like to schedule a one-way interview, it's very, very different. It's very bizarre. Give it a shot. Just reach out to Walt or myself, and we'll be sure to get you signed up for that. All right. Well, today we're going to do session 9 out of 13 sessions called Demonstrating Enthusiasm: How to be enthusiastic before, during, and after the interview, and effective words and phrases to use to show enthusiasm. The 2 people who are doing this are Mark McDonald and Walt Glass. So let me start the video up. If you have any questions, we will get those questions answered for you at the end of this session.
Let's get started with my portion, and then Walt's going to speak on enthusiasm. There's a bit of overlap in our presentation here. We coordinated on the topics, but we didn't coordinate on our perspective. So we each share our perspective. And so let's talk about the definition of being enthusiastic. And next week, we're going to talk about building rapport. So sometimes these might get confused, and they're certainly connected, because if you're enthusiastic, it also helps build rapport. But we'll talk about next week some very specific things to do about building rapport, and this week some very specific things to do about being enthusiastic. And I think I was an engineer. I was trained as an engineer. I worked as an engineer, a design engineer, for about the first half of my career, and then I got into business management. So I can relate to introversion. Worked with a lot of people who are introverted. I'm reasonably introverted myself. And so one of the things I focus on is helping people who are introverted demonstrate their enthusiasm. So I'm going to sprinkle throughout my comments here things that focus on introverts. And so the number one here is if you're not an enthusiastic person, then really what you need to do is show interest. You need to show interest. And so every time you hear enthusiastic, you want to say, how do you be enthusiastic? How do I show interest? Okay, how do I show interest? That's the question. And they are equivalent. Okay, showing interest in the things that we do and getting pleasure from doing them. So that's what being enthusiastic is. Having an active and motivated attitude instead of a passive one. You're very engaged in what you like to do. Enthusiasm means having a good attitude and receiving satisfaction from getting things done and pursuing our dreams. Good attitude is very important there. And I talk a little bit about your state of mind. And you know, being unemployed can be kind of a beat down sometimes. And that'll show through in your interviews. So you need to really work on fostering a good attitude and be proud of the work that you've done in the past and glad to talk about it and eager to get involved in doing it again. Now, building rapport is a little bit different. It's more of trying to build a connection or a relationship with someone else, okay? So being enthusiastic is showing interest, and building rapport is working on a connection between you and a one-on-one connection, you know, where you come to realize that you have common perspective. You may have some things in common that you pursue outside of work. And so it's a bond that forms when we discover that we understand or share one another's values and priorities in life. Okay. And sometimes that happens very naturally. You may have had this happen to you even in an interview situation, but there's things you can do specifically to encourage it next week. Stay tuned next week. Okay, here's my kind of agenda for today. We're going to demonstrate enthusiasm by preparing for it, okay, by using words that demonstrate enthusiasm or interest, by living it, okay, using our attitude, our positive outlook, by our demeanor and our interview etiquette. We're going to demonstrate it. We're going to take actions during and after the interview, well, even before in preparation. And a few comments at the end about enthusiasm for highly introverted people, okay? Now, here's what I suggest. You know, if good preparation, we spent 5 of the 13 sessions just on preparing to interview. So it's very important that you be well prepared. So let's talk a little bit about specifically how you prepare to be interested in showing your interest in the position. And so number 1 is a customized cover letter. Now, there's a lot of debate on whether cover letters are ever read. I think the latest thing I heard is that recruiters don't read them, but hiring managers do. Carol Brickell has some data from her, from the organization that gave her coaching credentials, that they had their annual meeting a few months ago, and that 62% of hiring managers will read the cover letter or take a look at the cover letter. Okay, I think anecdotally, you know, oftentimes recruiters speak and, you know, to job search organizations, and, you know, I think they often say they don't look at them. So there you go, but hiring managers do. But it's a really good effort to go through to be prepared for your interview, and where you put together this description of what they need and how you have it, you know, where in your experience you have that. And so the most important thing there is what they need. And so you may decide to send this in, or you may not, but it's a good idea to prepare this. So when you go into the interview, you know off the top of your head, well, this is what you're looking for. This is what I found on the job description. And this is what I believe is the most important to you. And then you want to ask some questions, you know, to make sure that that's correct. But what you've demonstrated is your analysis and the time you've spent, and therefore your interest in the job. Okay. You also want to customize it even before you get that interview. When you send in your resume, you want to tune it up to the language they use and the needs that they have. Okay. So that's another way that you show interest. It makes it easy for the interviewer or for the search engine or the AI, the keyword search, to pick you out of the hundreds of resumes that have been submitted, because it's focused on exactly what they need. Okay, now, I'm not saying that you make things up. I'm just saying that well, here's my resume, my big resume advice that I heard someone say recently. It makes so much sense. Resumes are not read, resumes are scanned. So when someone sees a resume, they're looking for certain things. So make those things easy to see using their language and addressing their needs, and that'll help you show interest, show preparation. Okay. Don't forget to do your research on the company, its products, its business environment. Okay, but when you come well prepared, Walt says this as well. You know, it's the beginning, right? It's the beginning. This candidate's really well prepared. They must be very interested in this job. That's the conclusion that'll be drawn by the interview. Have your list of questions, okay, and prioritized. 10 questions we recommend that you have at least. You might have more. You probably won't get to ask them all, but they're prioritized. Some of them may get answered during the course of the interview. You don't even have to ask them. But when you get your opportunity to ask a question, you know, pull one from your list. And then you're going to have some specific questions that you want to prepare to ask at the beginning of the interview, right after you make your opening statement, and you tell them how you can help them based on your analysis of the job description. You're going to want to ask some clarifying questions or some supportive questions to find out if your analysis is, you know, how correct your analysis is, what truly is most important to them. So there's lots of different ways you can ask those questions. I'll give you some examples in a second. And we've talked about them in the past. I think just last week, asking questions was the topic last week. Work product, it's really good to bring some work product to show off. Okay, now you may not have any work product that's available to you. It may be confidential information, but if you do, even in the virtual world, you can say, well, you know, I have this report here. You can show it. You know, I have this report here, or I have this product brochure that I put together, or I have if you're in creative arts, you know, you probably have a portfolio, and you probably have an online portfolio. But assuming that you're not, you know, you can show some of your work. And so would you like me to tell you about how I put this together or how I did this analysis? And it's not something that you'd necessarily leave behind if you were meeting face-to-face. As a matter of fact, I recommend that you don't. So you don't really need to send it to them either in advance. You just use it kind of as a prompt or a prop that says, you know, I have relevant work history, and this is an example, okay, so that you might be interested in hearing about. Now, if you don't have any of that kind of stuff, I recommend you make a 30, 60, 90-day plan. And this is a 30, 60, 90-day achievement plan, not, you know, I'm going to spend 30 days checking all the coffee options in the coffee bar and getting to know people around me. That's just basic stuff. You know, you need to make a 30, 60, 90-day achievement plan because they're hiring you to get some things done. So put that together, and then you can talk about it. You can mention that you've got it, and if it brings up any questions, or you can review it for them. Just another way to show interest, preparation, dedication to being the top candidate for this job. Okay, using your words to demonstrate enthusiasm. Well, guess what? There's in openings and closings, the session on openings and closings, we talk about a statement of enthusiasm right up front. You tell them why you're interested in the job, and you give two very specific reasons, right, that you're interested in the job. And then you often, almost always, like 2/3 of the time, maybe a little more, you get a chance to make an opening statement. That's the tell me about yourself. So take a look at session 6 if you want to get some more information about that. So use those words to tell them exactly how you can help them and why you're motivated to come to work, to do that job, to come to work at that company, and how it fits into your career, because the motivation is a big part of your enthusiasm for the job. You put it in a bigger context when you talk about why the timing, you know, the arc of your career, why this is the right job for you at the right time. Okay, definitely approach the interview with curiosity. Okay. And so at the beginning, you're going to ask some questions for sure. Most people do not ask questions during the interview, and you're missing a big opportunity. You really are. And here's how you ask those questions. You say, I'm curious to know, or I'm curious to hear, or I'm curious to learn about, or I'm curious to understand. Curiosity is a very powerful way to demonstrate interest and enthusiasm. You can say, if you get tired of saying I'm curious about and you don't want to overuse it, right? You can say, I was wondering about, they may ask a question. You can say, wow, I was wondering about that. So, then you answer the question that they ask you, and then you may ask them a question. I was wondering about, and I was wondering about that because, right? Give the reason. And I find it interesting that, or I found it interesting that if they ask you, something, have you read our vision statement? What do you think of our vision statement? You say, I found it interesting that, and to tell them what you think the most interesting thing was. And then you can ask them, what's your perspective on that? I mean, what do you think is the most powerful thing in the vision statement? So that's a good way to build rapport. Now, so these are connected, right? Showing your interest and enthusiasm, building rapport are connected. Positivity talk. Okay, a few people who come to the pit crew do this. It's very effective. And these are, I would call these little quips that you might throw in. So they ask you a question, tell me about a time where, something happened, and you say, wow, this is going to be fun. And then you start telling them the story. Or you could say, okay, I got quite a few to pick from here. Let me think for a second. These little things like that really go a long ways for demonstrating your interest and enthusiasm. And they're not difficult. But they do have to be genuine. And I think it's a good idea to practice using positive talk in all of your conversations with your spouse, with your kids. There's kind of a neutral way to say things. There's definitely a negative slant of things, but there's also, positivity talk. There's power talk. It's a thing, right? Using positive words. And showing empathy. And this usually comes up when you want to show empathy for your previous employer. So, nobody really likes to have layoffs, and it's as difficult for the employer as it is for the employee. And so, you can share that empathetic perspective, and I think it impresses interviewers that you have kind of a balanced perspective, that you have some business savvy, some business acumen. If you kind of understand what happened in the past at your previous employer, based on a business perspective, right? It's nothing personal, really, even though it may have put you in a very difficult situation. You understand why it was necessary. Okay, positive attitude. So I really, if you have some niggling doubts, if you have some negativity towards how you were treated in the past, that is going to show through. It's just going to leak through. And so you need to work on that. Keep a journal, write down those things that bothered you. At some point, you want to burn that thing down, let those feelings go, think about the business and what they had to do and why they had to do it. And no doubt about it, I coach people on why they left their last position, and a lot of people are not treated very well as the end approaches. But there's still usually some larger reason behind it, usually financial, right? So they were, when you're trying to bail water out of your sinking ship, at some point you lose, you can't bail any more water out. And so you have to let some people out of the boat. And so getting to that, sometimes generates some bad behaviors. But thinking of it in a bigger context will help you realize that it wasn't you, it was the situation, that forced this kind of reaction. And so that'll help you be very positive, because you need to have those positive thoughts in your mind, or words and phrases and how you choose to say things are going to be a little less than positive, and that'll be bad for showing your enthusiasm and interest in coming to work for this new company. So don't say, unfortunately, the company had to lay me off. Just don't say that. I hear that quite frequently. Unfortunately, I had to be laid off. You can say the company needed to lay me off. Okay, you understand they needed to lay you off. So that shows empathy. Are there any areas that you have reservations regarding my qualifications? Just stop right there. Don't say that I can clear up for you. This is actually what somebody said in a practice interview, and that was a great question right up to, can I clear that up for you? So this is kind of a subtle thing, right? To say, can I clear that up for you? What does that imply? It's whatever you're thinking is a misconception, so I need to clear it up. And that's not very positive. That's not a very positive thing to say to somebody. Now, here's a couple of good ones, and I like, so when you think about asking questions, think about sending a message or making a statement. So, is there anything that we discussed today that would cause you to hesitate in recommending me for the next step? Okay. The action you're asking for, the call to action is, please recommend me for the next step. Okay. That's the call to action part of this statement. Now, you've asked a question. Is there anything that's going to cause you to hesitate? Because you're definitely indicating that you want to be advanced to the next step by the question that you asked. And similarly, asking how you compare to the ideal candidate says, I want to be the ideal candidate. Okay. I want to be the top performer. So how do I compare? You're asking for feedback. Asking for feedback is a very positive thing as well. And if I was a spectacular success in this role after 6 months, what would I have accomplished? A very specific question about how you can help them, okay, in the near term. And I wouldn't wait till the end of the interview to ask this question. Ask this question earlier, like right after the opening statement. What are your top priorities? How do you think I can help the most? And, if I got an outstanding merit review in 6 months, what would I have done? Those are great questions to demonstrate your interest and enthusiasm in helping them specifically with what they need done in the next few months. Okay, actions. Okay, include that cover letter in your application. You did the work, you've done the analysis, go ahead and send it in. Recruiter may not look at it, but sounds like the hiring managers do. And do the work and tailor your resume. Some people coach that you just need a generic resume, but tune it up for every opportunity you get. So it's easy to scan. The things they're interested in are close to the top, easy to find, and put you, in a good position to be selected by whatever method they use to screen out those resumes. Bring a notepad. So when we get back to meeting face-to-face, you want to bring something to write on. You want to have your prioritized questions in there, your extra resumes, a copy of the job description, your cover letter, your work product. You want to have it all in there. Now, even in the virtual world, when the interview gets started, you can say, well, just want to let you know, I have a copy of the job description. I have a copy of my resume. I have some questions written down here that I may want to ask. I've got the cover letter that I included, and I've got some work product to share with you. So you can just verbalize all that. They can't see it, but you can tell them, I've got this stuff. There you go. I have done my homework. I'm really interested in this position, and let's get started. I'm eager to go. Be intentional. Okay. Remember that you're interviewing for a job. You want to be able to help them. That's your intention, is to find a job where you can help your employer. Be grateful, be positive, be curious, basically be unstoppable. Also, listening. That's a very active physical thing you can do. You can lean in, you can nod, you can pause. these are things you kind of do naturally when you're having a conversation with somebody who you're starting to get alignment with. I wouldn't recommend that you do these kind of forced. It can be detected. It's not that difficult to tell when somebody's not being genuine. But get to that point where you're really, this is really the way you're going to behave, because you are genuinely interested to hear what they have to say. So that is to say, it's okay to do these things if that's the way you feel. Don't. Some people who come to the pit crew, for instance, even though it's a mock interview, they're very stiff. They're very formal. Let's say they're very formal, and that's going to be a hindrance to showing your enthusiasm and interest. So let it go. Let those. You don't have to be really stiff. Lean in, pause. Do the things that you would naturally do when you're having a good conversation. And don't forget to exercise your interview etiquette. So there's another, you send those thank you notes. I recommend you handwrite them, you take a picture of them, or you scan them and then you email them. You never know if you send them through the physical email, if they actually get there or when they get there, how long it takes. But writing it by hand shows a little extra effort, and then taking a picture or scanning it and then sending it by email, delivers that handwritten note to them in an electronic means. And don't forget to ask in your interview what follow-up looks like, and then when you should reach out to them next, when they expect to make a decision, and then do those follow-up activities that you agreed to do or requested. If you've requested to get an update in a week or so, then go ahead and call. You may end up leaving a message, but do all of those things. Okay, my last slide, and let's talk to strong introverts, okay? And I got this idea that I needed to talk about this, and so I just went to Google and I typed in, this kind of thing, and here's what I found out. Is the most common reason that people are perceived to lack enthusiasm is they're not really interested in the job, they're tired, they're stressed, they're preoccupied, they're unprepared, or they're overconfident. Okay, that's number one. But number two is they have a laid back demeanor. They might be quiet, contemplative, introverted, might be kind of intense. So this, and if you're introverted, you probably know this. This is kind of leaves the impression that you're not enthusiastic, okay, that you're not interested, just because you're being who you are, the way you are. Now, some of you people who are just a little bit introverted can, do all the things that I've suggested, and it won't be a challenge for you. But if you're extremely introverted or strongly introverted, then creating an extroverted persona is just not going to work, because it's going to fall flat. Now, remember, it's always good to say you're not necessarily trying to be enthusiastic if you're not enthusiastic, but you need to demonstrate interest. Okay, interest is as good as enthusiasm and doesn't involve, voice inflection and smiling big. All those things can help if you can do them, but if you're a very serious kind of person, here we go. The recommendation here is to go ahead and deal with that right up front. Okay, right up front at the beginning of the interview, acknowledge that you have a quiet, shy, intense, focused demeanor. Okay, and then call out the elephant in the room that sometimes, your demeanor is misconstrued to be less than enthusiastic, less than interested, when in fact that's not the case at all. Okay, and then you want to give an example of how your calm, your focused, your intent demeanor has been an asset in your success in the past. Okay, so you're not going to change for them, you're not going to be able to change for them, and then they see something in your background that's been interesting for them, or you wouldn't be having an interview. You just want to make sure that, so I was an engineer. When I interviewed with other engineers, or I hired engineers, being an introvert was not an issue, right? Because most of us are pretty introverted. But if you end up talking to, other people in the organization, there's where you need to bring up the fact that, you have this personality type and it's not a hindrance to your work. And in fact, you are, quite enthusiastic and interested, and you've done your homework and you're going to demonstrate through all the preparation you've done. You're not going to say these things, but this is the way it's going to go, that you are well prepared to be able to help them. And, you've had success, even though you're a bit introverted or intense or quiet. So, all right, use your words. If you're introverted, the content of your message can be engaging as a big personality. Don't forget to verbalize the things that you find appealing, intriguing, and exciting about the opportunity. Use those words and reference them throughout the interview, right? So keep coming back to, now there's a little trick here, or a little gotcha here, right? Is you don't want to talk too much about yourself, but you do, right? You're going to use your examples from your background to demonstrate to them how you can help them, okay? But you do want to talk about your enthusiasm, your motivation to come to work for them, because as we found out through the survey, it's a big percentage of importance to the final candidate, because in the end, there's going to be, the candidates will meet all the basic requirements that are necessary, and they'll pick the candidate that they believe is the most highly motivated, and therefore will be the happiest and most productive of the group. And so talking about why you're interested and what you find intriguing about the position is something you need to do if you have a quiet, reserved personality.
There's a lot of things that Mark said that I kind of cut out of my presentation because we're so aligned in so many things. So I'm not gonna, the fact that I don't mention the same thing that he mentions does not mean, just don't read anything into that, because we're trying to give you a complete picture and two perspectives at the same time. There's only one little tiny thing in there that I would suggest that Mark change. See if you can find it and send it to me. I bet you can't find it. It's so tiny.
Is there a mistake? Did I make that typo?
It's just not, no, it's just not quite that consequential, but
Okay.
I just want to say 99.99% and of all these things that you say, I think are fantastic things and a great help to us that are working on doing our interviewing in a very positive and enthusiastic, interesting way. So the first 6 sessions that we talk about all apply to enthusiasm. In other words, enthusiasm goes everywhere, anytime. It comes in now as you are maybe asking questions, showing enthusiasm, even with your question. When you unmute and ask the question, you're showing interest in things like that in the words you say. So my question to you is, how can we be enthusiastic without preparation? So it's pretty hard to walk into an interview and you're not prepared and you're a little bit sitting on a hot seat here and you've got some stress going on. And so how can you show enthusiasm when you're in that frame of mind? So it's not that easy to do. And so how can we be enthusiastic without confidence in ourselves? So preparation, confidence through preparation and practice is going to give us a lot more opportunity to be enthusiastic. You all know that already. I thought I would bring it up here. A couple of definitions. Feeling of energetic interest. So energy. Sometimes people ask me, what about fighting age? And the problem with ageism and looking at us as too old. Energy is the #1 thing to show. We hired a new CEO in the company. He came in and downsized us twice, and I got to leave on the second one. But he brought in a CFO with him that was 90 years old. Okay. And so I knew some people in finance, and I said, well, how is it working for our new CFO? He says, that man has more energy. I mean, he's got get up and go than you can imagine. All right. That was his first words out and said, age just went away. So that's one way we can help with that. absorbing or controlling possession of the mind by any interest or pursuit, a lively interest. So when we're genuinely interested in something and we're genuinely excited about something, we'll show it and we'll demonstrate it. That's why Mark put it up at the beginning, saying one of the most important things we can do is that enthusiasm. We saw that over half the people said, a great many of the people said that enthusiasm is one of the biggest differentiators in the hiring decision. So we want to make sure we do the things so that we can be genuinely enthusiastic. Now, Gordon says it's electricity of life. How you get it? You act enthusiastic until you make it a habit. Similar to Dale Carnegie, act enthusiastic and you'll be enthusiastic. I went to a Dale Carnegie course. It was on Thursday nights from 7 to 10 o'clock after work. Now, all the participants, there was about 30 of us that showed up. We weren't exactly like we woke up in the morning and ready to go. I mean, it was the end of the day. We were mentally tired from today's work. We were physically tired from some of that stuff. And here we are. And we had to do the act enthusiastic and be enthusiastic exercise, where one of the participants got up, we all stood up, we got in there, we repeated the word act enthusiastic and you'll be enthusiastic, getting louder and louder and using more and more body motion, exaggerating to a huge extent. And when we finished that exercise, we all felt better. We had more energy just by acting like it. Now, you don't want to screw up your mind and say, I'm faking it, and I'm not really enthusiastic. We want to do it so that we're genuinely enthusiastic. And so I say that it must be genuine and sincere. It's not a fake it until you make it. So there's my first quote that I've ever put on anywhere about anything. The only other quote I would say, if you don't know what you're going to say in an interview, don't talk. That's my other one. All right. So Morabian did a study. Maybe you've heard about this. And he did a study on communications of feelings and attitudes. Now, this isn't just communication itself, but feelings and attitudes. So how do you build rapport? How do you create empathy? How do you do that? We're going to do ways that show our feelings and attitudes. Maya Angelou said, you know, people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. So by our actions, our words, and our facial expressions, etc., we're going to send these messages about how we feel and attitudes to them. And so that's how we can create that rapport and build that connection. 7% of the words, 33%, well, I don't know why that message is coming up on my PC. Okay, 38% is how we say them, and 55% of the meaning is in facial expression. So I'm going to repeat that. 7% of the words are spoken. 38% is the way the words are said, and 55% are in facial expression. So there's two ends of the extreme of, are you interested and enthusiastic and excited about something? Are you very interested in something? Versus I'm so laid back that I just don't show much interest. More enthusiastic words that we can say. In fact, I'm thinking about maybe in our resumes, we might use some of the words where you might say generated $500,000 in new sales through, then you might use some of your attributes through passionate and leadership in the services and products we provide. Maybe something like that. It's just a thought that I just came up with while Mark was talking, how we can show our soft skills and our interest and enthusiasm in the words, even in a resume. But nonetheless, we got to say them like we mean them. You can't talk one thing and show another thing. Everything has to be genuine and sincere. So what are we enthusiastic about? Well, my model for interviewing is on who we are, what we do, and how we can help. The I am, the I do, and I help. I love doing what I do. I like using my knowledge and skills, all right? I love creating activities, doing things that result with these types of specifics that are going to help this company and the department, et cetera, move forward. That's where we get to the star stories, and those R's were the results of our activities. We want to show them in two areas, the job itself and the company. The question that we asked in the beginning was, what % do you think of the hiring decision is made from enthusiasm for the job and the company. Not only the job, but for the company. A lot of interviews talk about the job. They don't often talk about the knowledge of the company and what they know. Now, if there's anyone I would use as an example, I've used him before, but Jared, who got a position at Lockheed, when was asked what he knows about the company, the energy and enthusiasm and excitement in his voice about all the things that he knew about Lockheed would just blow you away. I mean, he just turned on. The light came on. He was all excited about talking about it. And so having the knowledge was really good, but how he demonstrated the knowledge really sold the deal. He did get that job. Took him a year, but he got it. Have a genuine positive attitude. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm not too positive. All right. I don't know how you wake up in the morning. I don't spring out of bed. I don't race to whatever I'm going to do first in the day. It's sit in the bed, make sure I'm not too dizzy so before I stand up, right? So I'm not too energetic at that point in time, but I can get that way fairly quickly by thinking of positive things, listening to some positive music. Boost our energy level. Pick it up just a little bit, still be genuine. But are we really looking forward to talking to the interviewer? Are we really excited to be there? If we say in that opening statement, that statement of enthusiasm, which I call the greeting, it's where you use it, is I am really excited to be here. I mean, are you or are you not? If you don't show it when you say that, it's not going to work. As you think, and Mark covered this, it's what we're thinking is going to drive our words, our actions, how we say the words, our facial expression, all that's going to become from what we're thinking. That's going to be a positive thing that'll help us. And I will tell you this, it will make a huge difference in your interview just with that kind of mindset. Always arrive on time and smile. Now, I got to smile more. I'm not very good at smiling. I got to remember to smile some more. Smiling has a great positive effect on our bodies. It's actually a physical effect. The receiver actually gets a positive feeling and they smile back. And so we double it all over again. Smiling is a great tool to use, but it has to come from within. It's not a technique. What's your posture? Well, if you're truly interested and you have some enthusiasm for this job, I don't have to tell you to watch your posture. You will have a good posture to do it. It'll be a result. It's not something. So I can't, oh, I'm supposed to lean in. No, I want to use it as a technique. I want to use it as a result of what you're thinking. And begin with that statement of enthusiasm, which Mark has already talked about. How you tell the STAR story is as significant as the story itself. So it's just another example of what I previously said. We were in the pit crew and we were talking to a person and somebody had seen something in his resume. So we asked the STAR story coach, well, can you tell me more about this particular achievement that you had? And his first words out was, he just kind of chuckled and said, oh, that was a fun one. And then as he told the story, he showed that he was having fun going through the exercises and actions that he took for those results. Feedback from all the panelists said, that's the best thing you did in the whole interview was that little piece. And that was that little energy, that little enthusiasm, that feeling of, oh, that was a fun one. I enjoyed doing this. I like doing this and achieving those results. Stood out that much. Asking questions shows that we really want to learn. We're interested in finding out about things. It shows that we've spent time and effort in preparation, because we can ask a question where, so I was looking at your 10K and in the M&A section 5, the management was saying this, then I have a question about what management was saying. If it's a public company, go look at their 10K and look at section 5. It's ripe with data and information for management on perspective of the company. Look at the about section on their webpage. It tells you a lot about the company. That gives you some information that you can show that you have knowledge about, just as a couple of examples. So demonstrate that knowledge with that lead in. And those questions are going to indicate what is important to us. So if the first question out of our mouth is, what does the benefits package look like? That's a lot different than saying, what is it that I can do for you in the next 9 months for you to say, I've done an outstanding job. All right. I'm looking for the achievements. I would love to hear what your needs are, what your issues are. then I can start talking to you about how I can help you with those. When something sounds interesting, say so. So when they ask a question and that's kind of interest to you, say, well, that's very interesting. And I'm glad you asked that question. Compliment them. Who gets, as an interviewer, gets a compliment during an interview? Almost no one. What stands out to us as unique and why we would want to work for them is in that compliment. Has to be genuine, has to be real. So within our responses, please don't say that's a good question. It may be a good question, but the only reason I say that is I've heard it thousands of times. It's about the only thing I hear when a question is being asked and the person doesn't know what to answer. So they're trying to make some noise because silence works against us while we're thinking of an answer, and where the pause comes in is much more effective. But I hear that, well, that's a good question. That's a good question. Well, if it really is a good question, rephrase it so that it's not the same thing that they hear. That's the differentiation style. So I'm really impressed that you asked that question. All right. Giving them a compliment saying, that's an important question. You should know about me. So that makes a big difference. Of course, it's got to be genuine. So as part of the close, we can also tell them that they're a good interviewer. If that's true, all right, or find something in the interview that was positive that you can talk about to them in the part of your close. I'm saying, I really enjoyed your questions today. I think that you're really getting the right information to make a good hiring decision. Now, those have to be true. I'm not trying to give you something to write down and say in your close, but this is an example of something that when it's true, find something that you can say to them that was good about what they did as part of your close. And of course, closing, Mark mentioned some of the stuff on that, but it shows that we are truly interested in the job. Now, thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Does not do any of these three items. That does not do it. It's got to be better than that. In the workshop, we talk about the close, got some definite steps and options and kind of information we can say in that close. So it shows them we are interested in the job in our close. It demonstrates our confidence, and it also can overcome a weak start. So we would like to start strong and we'd like to finish strong. If you finish weak, you've killed the start strong in the middle part. So we've got to finish strong. It could definitely help us. And then follow up afterwards. We are still interested in the job, and persistence and perseverance stands out positively. So in that interview, Mark mentioned, we want to find out when's the next time to contact them. When will I hear back? Who will I hear back from? When should I hear back from them? And if I don't hear you back, can I contact you on this date? You get their voicemail. You talk to them. You compliment them, saying you're still interested, you like the job. I was interested in our discussion about this. And if I don't hear back from you and you set another date, that you're going to contact them, so that you're in charge of your job search. You're not just walking out saying, well, I hope they reach out to me, and you don't hear anything. So interviewers want an employee who's passionate, interesting, hardworking, and who'll be a good ambassador for the company. So they're looking at you. And so if you're going to be a customer facing person in that role, then they're going to judge you as, are you the kind of person I want to see sitting in front of one of our customers? Are you demonstrating that? Do you have that work ethic? Do you have the go get it? Do it what it takes to get the job done? If you're truly passionate about your work and you really love your work and you're excited about achieving those results, that will all demonstrate bullet number one. Enthusiasm does draw people to us. In fact, it's contagious. It's kind of hard to be sad and glum around somebody who's enthusiastic. It's not quite as strong as a yawn, but it sure does come close. Yawns are pretty strong, right? And if we're enthusiastic and interested, then there's a likelihood that the interviewer will return that enthusiasm and interest about us. So the steps are like this. Let's do some research and preparation, all right? We've done preparation on resumes. We've done on bio, LinkedIn. We've got our focus. We've done research on the company. We've done it on the industry, the competitors, lots of information we have before we go in. So get our content ready after we do all this research. Then we practice. So we take the preparation we have and we practice. And so you can come to the interview success workshop. We'll cover the fundamentals. We can also have a regular type interview, still informal. You go to the pit crew, have your mock interviews. Jared did about 4 sessions with me and 5 or 6 sessions at pit crew before he got a job, and said, boy, the real interview was so much easier. Well, of course, he did all that practice and preparation. So that gives us the skills and confidence now. The more practice we have, the more practice we have, the more confidence we have, the more skills we have, and start understanding how to do that interview. So that yields energy, enthusiasm, and interest. And then as a result of that, we get the job. So people that come to the interview success workshop don't show a lot of enthusiasm on day one. I mean, we're down at the basics and we're learning, nor do I expect them to show a lot of enthusiasm, because the emphasis is on learning for improvement. So we're in the preparation stage. Until you get through that preparation stage and you get to, okay, I feel pretty good now. And then you go have an interview and you do pretty well in that interview, and that gives you more confidence. So you can learn one of 2 ways. You can just go through the regular interview process and learn the hard way, or you can learn the easier way with going through some practice and preparation through the pit crew or through workshop, or both. Now let's take a look at those questions.
Christy asked, how do I not come across as overly enthusiastic as a positive and extroverted, extra positive person? Wow.
I would say don't do that.
Good for you, Christy. Well, so and here I've had some time to think about it. So you don't want to be generically enthusiastic. Okay, so if you're an enthusiastic person, that's going to come through. You need to be very specific about what you're enthusiastic about. The job, the opportunity to help, be very specific. I mean, at the end, you don't want people to say, yeah, she was really enthusiastic, but I don't know how she can help us. You know, you got to focus that enthusiasm on very specific things. And of course, ask your questions, which might redirect what you need to focus on. Yeah, just general enthusiasm without achievements to back it up is you're not going to get selected.
Good response, Mark, but don't change your personality. Be your personality. If they don't want that personality, you won't be successful there anyway. So just be yourself.
I'm sorry, this is Ann. I have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned in your discussion about carrying a notebook in and opening it up. I was very happy to hear that, because I am more comfortable during an interview to have that open in front of me and to carry those things. So thanks for sharing that and confirming that was a good idea. What about taking notes during the interview? Would an interviewer find that perhaps distracting?
I would say at the beginning of the interview, in fact, as part of your, after your statement of enthusiasm, you might say, do you mind if I take a few notes during the interview? It's a courtesy request. All likelihood is they're going to be taking notes, and you can take notes. And during the interview, if they ask you a question and you want to respond to it, but you say, just a minute, I'd like to take a note, and stop. And so they know what you're doing and you can take your note. Taking notes shows the interviewer you're interested in what they have to say and you want to remember it. That's significant. I suggest you, when you open your portfolio, your questions are on the left and your note-taking page can be on the right, so that you can take the notes as you wish.
All right, that's a presentation that we've got. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to unmute your mic and ask away. Ron's with us, Walt is with us, and we can get your questions answered for you. So any questions, please?
There was a question in the chat window regarding applying for lower level positions. And so let me start with a response to that. So what's our mindset going in to that interview? And I'll say there's basically 2 mindsets. One is, I can do this job. All right. So when you go in and you talk about it, there's not that much energy or passion or interest in doing it. It's I need a job. I need to get here. I need something. And if we're thinking that, it's going to show up negatively for us. So how do we get our mind around that? Well, number one is, can you see the job as a stepping stone to the job that you really want? Can you see that as a positive experience so that whatever you do, you will learn things, you can apply things, you can make connections, you can make contacts, you can still be moving forward. Because you want to come in that day when you work and you want to have energy about what you do, enjoy what you're doing, and like what you do. And if you put it in the context of this is a step to go forward, and I'm very positive about it, I look forward to going to work, this is going to help me. And you can still look for that other job on the side. It's kind of hard to do some of that while you're working because you're pretty busy, and job search activities are difficult to squeeze in at times. But nonetheless, what's your attitude about the job? If your attitude is correct going in, then you're going to be more successful in the interview. Now, in the workshop, we pay attention to several things in the basics and the fundamentals, the openings, the closing, the salary, the negative questions, strengths, the weaknesses, likes, dislikes, failures, all that sort of thing. And one of them is also overqualified. When you're applying for an overqualified position, the net of that is agree with them. But the fact is, we can show them that this is the job we want, and this is the company where we want to work. And that is our focus. That's what energizes us. That's why it is that we're looking here. Then you'll be okay. Most people, when they talk about a lower level position or overqualified question, will say, no, I'm not. And then they'll say, look at all the skills and experience that I bring. Well, they know all that already. That's not the problem. The problem is your motivation. How long will you last in this job? You probably be a short timer because you won't like this work. You won't stay here. Therefore, we have to answer the motive to that question. Just convince me this is the job I want. This is the company I want. Here's the values and things that I can bring. And we kind of summarize who we are, what we do, and how we combine those to how we can help. A couple of specifics, and then close with, I'd never take a position where I'm not fully committed, which addresses directly the most often motivation from asking that particular question. What do you think?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions from anybody? We've got a couple minutes here. Going once, going twice. All right, well, let me just show a few closing slides and we will get out of here. If I can get my computer to work for us. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us. We'd really appreciate it. Tomorrow, being the third Thursday of the month, we're going to talk about strategies to beat the ATS, system. This is for Effective Resume Thursday, tomorrow at 1 o'clock. This Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, Locke Aldous will be with us to talk about resume secrets, including dissecting the job posting, how to look at the job posting, how to tear it apart, how to make sure you're applying correctly. Next Tuesday, Ruth Lipscomb will be with us to talk about LinkedIn, how to drive recruiters to your LinkedIn profile. If you've not seen Ruth's presentation, she does an excellent job. She works for Lee Heck Harrison and works with job seekers all the time. And so really good presentation. All right, this session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. Please follow us on Facebook. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, Career USA YouTube, just click on playlist, because every video that I upload will go into one of the different playlists. And then down below, if you're under interviewing, says view full playlist, you'll be able to see a list. Here are the 13 sessions that we do have recorded on the webinar, on the 13 sessions that we have recorded on that playlist. If you'd like to, just scroll down. You're going to have to scroll down to be able to see where it says lesson 13, lesson 12, session 11, 10, 9. The first 5 sessions are everything you need to do before the interview, everything you need to do to prepare. The next 5 sessions these are things that you do during the interview. And the last 3 are some advanced topics. So once you click on view playlist, you'll see all these sessions pop up. Just scroll down to where you actually see it says sessions. Otherwise, you're going to see just some random replays and some other things that we've stuck on that same channel. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, please send an email to careerusa, @groups.io. We will get you signed up. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the title of the day, the topic of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. Please remember, Career FW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. Everything I've done over the last 14 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great afternoon. I'm heading to the Great State Fair of Texas now, so we will see everybody hopefully tomorrow or Friday. Have a great week.
If I could add a couple lines.